Hello there, welcome back to Planet Zoo. Here we are back in Lunar Zoo. Having a lot of fun in this park, I have to say. And today is the start of a fairly large project. Our last episode we put our little Arctic foxes in. As you can see, they are having a great time in here in their little snowy Arctic enclosure over here. But today we're embarking on something over the other side of the park, so let me bring you on over here, and you'll see I've already started a bit of a construction here. So this is how many buildings is this already? It is several buildings already. It's going to be quite a tricky process what I have in mind here. Now I will tell you in advance already, I have already finished this entire project. I am now going back and doing my videos, so I know how much trouble I've already had with this, and well, it was worth it in the end. Let's just say that it turns out really good. I'm really happy with the result. But yeah, just a little tricky at times, but it's basically turned out exactly how I planned. So what I had in mind, I had this large area here, and I wanted something almost like a bicycle wheel in a way, with imagine a bicycle wheel and the spokes on it. So I wanted a central building here with a pathway for the guests to come in and be able to walk around inside, and I wanted, at least in this case, 5 habitats leading off out here, creating essentially a large circle of habitats here. With this is the central viewing area to look into each habitat. I also wanted the bedding area of each habitat to be next to these windows, so this building needs to be sort of double layered, so there'll be another layer of wall further out so that I can make a small bed area for each animal in here. So essentially you're coming inside to look into the animals' bedrooms, and then there'll be a circular pathway around the outside to go and watch them in the outside areas of the habitats. That was my thinking. So this is what I came up with to start. A very simple, obviously wide opening for the pathway to go in, a viewing window for each enclosure, and a doorway where I could put the actual barrier and habitat entrance into. So this is how I started off, just this very simple design, and you know, it worked out exactly how I wanted, so that's good. So it was a good start. So I can tell you it's going to be 5 different big cats in here. And that was kind of my plan all along. I wanted it to be a themed area. I wanted the 5 animals to all be related in some way, and really there was only 2 things I could have done. It could have been cats, or it could have been bears. But the bears don't really work because there are, I think there are only there were 4, I think, of the large bears in the game. What have you got? You got sun bears, grizzly bears, what's it called? Formosian bears, is it? Something like that. I can't quite remember now. Let's have a look, shall we? Where are the bears? I could have gone with possibly apes, but that wasn't the sort of enclosures that I wanted to build. Yes, there we go. Formosan black bears. And then you've got, oh, actually you've got pandas. That's 2. Grizzly bear, brown bear, and sun bear. So actually, yes, I could have done bears, couldn't I? So that's a possibility for later on, maybe in this zoo. I may well do something like that, where you get all the bears living in one sort of large area. But I wanted to do cats. I had sort of rough ideas of how I wanted to theme each habitat, and the cats to me kind of made sense. I think bears need a lot more terrain work. I think if I do bear enclosures, I'd want them to have more hills, whereas the cats, I was more than happy keeping it fairly flat. So that was kind of my thinking behind the idea of putting cats in here. So that was how I started. Very simple first bit of design work done there. Really had to start from the ground up with this sort of project. So let me load up my next stage and see how I progressed. Right, so here you can kind of see where I was heading with this. Now there's two things to note about what I've started doing here. Firstly, these are obviously temporary barriers, all these the brick walls. It was just to give me a rough idea of the sort of look I was going for, sort of the area that it was going to take up. I do in the end actually end up making the enclosures slightly larger than these. I also, as you can see, I brought this building in closer to this, and actually I do change that back, and I end up moving it back out here again, which is a bit of a palaver because there's barriers involved now. I've actually put down the gates, as you can see. Again, obviously these are just temporarily put in place, but actually I realised that I wanted more of an entrance into here. I thought this was a little bit too cramped. And even though cramped is sort of the look I'm going for in a lot of this zoo, where I can link buildings together and that kind of thing, it felt too squashed in here. I wanted more of a grand entrance into this building, so I do in fact move this back out further over here somewhere. As you can see, obviously the pathway around the middle here is never going to be perfect, so I do cover this up with a fake floor inside eventually. But yeah, at least you can kind of get an idea of what I'm aiming for here. So each creature, as you can see, each animal is going to have quite a large area, and then each one is going to be very differently themed to the one next to it. So the cats that go in are obviously some of them like sort of desert areas, so you've got lions and cheetahs, so those two go in and they're themed fairly deserty. Then you've got jaguars that like a bit more of a jungle feel, and you have Siberian tigers, so they're a little bit more jungly as well. In fact, the jaguars are a little bit more swampy than jungly, I would say. The tigers are very jungly, and then I put in one of the new cats, the cougar. And cougars are often found in mountainous areas, so their enclosure becomes very mountain themed. So you got a nice variation of different themes to do for each habitat, which I like. So yeah, so there we go. So that's sort of a rough idea of what I'm doing, although like I say, I think probably by the time I load up my next stage, you'll see that I moved it all back out and expanded it further back here, which means that all these front enclosures get a lot bigger. But yeah, you kind of get the idea of what I'm aiming for here, the sort of size that it's going to be. So one of the larger areas of the zoo, certainly not the biggest. I think the moose is by far the biggest area at the moment, but then moose are very large animals and need lots of space, so that kind of makes sense. Right, so let me crack on and load up the next stage for you. Okay, so a fair bit of progress made here. As you can see, like I said, I've moved the building back out here, so you've got this lovely entranceway, and I end up making that quite an impressive looking entrance tunnel actually. The animals are now in, so let's have a look at what we have. We have our tigers over here, so we've got 4 females and a male over here. In our next habitat we have our glorious jaguars, and I managed to get a black one. I mean, oh, they're just stunning. When you see these in real life, they have bright yellow eyes, and they're just glorious animals, absolutely lovely looking things. So we have a male and a female jaguar living in this habitat. Next to them we have our pair of cougars, so again a male and a female cougar in here. Over here we have a male and a female cheetah, lovely looking things. And then finally we have our our pair of Siberian tigers. Are they no, Bengal tigers, sorry, not Siberian. I think I said Siberian last time as well. I didn't mean that. That would have been more of an Arctic feel. I meant Bengal tigers. So yeah, there we go. We have our Bengal tigers in there. So those are our animals. Obviously, again, just put in temporarily so I can sort of work out where they can all move. And I've started some work on the extra part of this main building. So like I said, I wanted bedding areas viewable here through the windows. So that's what I've been constructing using the existing building pieces. As you can see, so I've just extended each building out into the next layer of the main building. and put these archways in, so that I thought these archways made nice entrances for the cats to go in and out. Obviously they don't all line up perfectly, so I'm going to have to put sort of columns on the corner pieces like this, and here just fill the gaps in with brick columns to make it all look really nice. And it does, in the end, it does look really nice actually, I can promise you that, so it's worth sticking around. Now obviously what this meant was that I've opened it up at the front here, and so these two enclosures at the front expand right down onto this pathway eventually, so they do become quite big enclosures, and because of that I do then make some of these back ones a little bit larger as well. I think I shrink this down so it comes more across here and down, and then this one opens up, so obviously it links directly onto there and comes further out here as well, and then the same on the other side as well, because I wanted each enclosure to be sort of the same size. I think it ends up with, I think maybe this very back one here is probably the smallest one, the one with the Cougars, but it's probably the most heavily themed one that I do actually. I'm not sure, but they all turn out absolutely fine basically for the you know, they're appropriate for the animal that's in there. But yeah, so there's a lot of work left to do. Obviously I have also put down the flooring in here, so this is just this lovely tiled roof put down as flooring. I know it means that they lose the bottoms of their feet as they walk through it. Obviously they just clip through the graphics, but you can ignore that because it just makes the area look much tidier, doesn't it? It looks like people are actually walking on the floor. Also just built some fake wooden surrounds for the doors, because the door pieces in these pre-built wall pieces are much smaller. The gaps are much bigger than the actual in-game barrier doors, which is a bit odd. So you have to kind of have some sort of a surround on there. So I've just put a wooden frame around all the doors there. So there we go. That's how we're looking at the moment. So it was quite slow progress. This was probably the hardest bit, was just getting all the structure in place. Obviously when you come to theming, that can be relatively quick as long as you know roughly what you're doing, but when you're trying to build a building like this, it can get quite tricky to move stuff and make it all link together and look good. When it comes to doing the roof, you'll see what I mean, because that was quite a tricky roof to build, because it was attached to, you know, each of these is different. So you've got what, 6 different buildings? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 possibly actually buildings. 8 buildings. Yeah, it's a lot of buildings. Yeah, 8 would make sense because it's 8-sided, isn't it? Of course it is. Duh. Sorry, I have my dim moment. Yeah, so there's a lot of buildings there, so trying to build one single roof structure that covers the entire thing was tricky, but it looks really good in the end actually. I'm very happy with it. Now obviously my idea was to create sort of a perfect octagon shape. It doesn't work out like that, unfortunately. I go wrong somewhere, because when I come to do the roof I realise that it's not quite even, and you end up with the roof looking not quite symmetrical front to back. I think it's symmetrical side to side but not front to back. I'm not really sure how I managed to do that, because to me that looks pretty good as an octagon shape. I think maybe it's because this gap here isn't as wide as this gap here, I think. So maybe this, no, see, that angle should be exactly the same as that. I don't know, I'm really not sure how it ended up going wrong, but it did. Looking at that, I think it's because this wall here isn't as long as this wall here, and this one here isn't the same as this one here, and so you end up with this bit of walling here is longer than this one here, isn't it? Yeah, that's what's gone wrong. So yeah, so when you get to this front piece here, it ends up just a little bit off shape, but in the end it looks really good. So yeah, well, you could be the judge of that when I finally get to that bit. Right, anyway, sorry, I'm waffling again. Let me load up my next save and see what I got up to next. Right, I have enlarged the habitat here, so you can see that these two front ones are now much bigger than the other ones, and they do come right down to the pathway here. I chucked a zookeeper hut down just as a temporary measure so that they didn't have to walk too far. But the main thing I've done is get this central building looking a bit better. So like I said, I put these pillars in just to fill in the gaps between the different wall pieces. so that it was all enclosed and tidy and looking nice. So there's very helpful pieces, these, because they really allow you to bridge gaps between pieces that don't actually fit together normally. So yeah, that's it looks really good now. I also had a lot of fun putting the flooring down inside these bed areas. Again, it was just because of all the funny angles that I'd built at, and trying to sink it down into the ground just right so that it wasn't too much of a step, and so that when I built the when I put the bedding on the top, it didn't do too much of this. It's something very annoying in the game. If you put bedding down, it raises the land up to where the bedding is. That's what it seems to do anyway. I might be wrong as to why it does what it does, but basically if you put bedding on the ground, it's fine, it kind of flattens the ground. But if you put it on top of another piece, like this ceiling piece that I use as flooring, you can see here it raises the ground up underneath it, which is really annoying. So you can't do much about it. You just have to sort of hide it the best you can. And occasionally what I've done is put it down and then raise the floor up underneath it a bit, just to cover up the green of the ground that shows through. But then that's when you end up with pieces like this, where it kind of doesn't interact with the hay quite properly. But yeah, it is what it is. You can't do too much about that, really. But as you can see, our animals are happy in here, having a little snooze on their new bit of bedding. So that is all in place now. So our main building there structurally is done and is in. I've extended the pathway inside here all the way down this entrance walkway here. And also just put some information boards on the wall, just with a simple wooden frame around each one, just showing you what animal is in each of the enclosures. Really simple. It's a bit tricky because I want it. Obviously, this one here applies to this window here, when actually it's on the wall for this one. So if you see what I mean, so it's kind of pointing to the left. So in this left window, you'll see that. In this window, you'll see that. In this window, you'll see that. In this window, you'll see that. And in this window, you'll see that. I might change that. I can't quite remember if I'd changed that or not, because I did think it was a little bit misleading that maybe if it was on this wall, you would think it would be the wall behind it, and so you'd look through this window and see that animal, but you don't, you see that animal. So yeah, I can't remember if I changed that or not. We'll have to keep an eye on that, because it might be something that I change later on. Not too sure. But there we go. So you can see clearly these two habitats at the front are much larger now, especially compared to the ones at the back. So as soon as I did that, I knew I had to change the size of the back ones as well. So obviously, like, it's quite obvious I could just cut this off here and extend sort of round this one out like that, and then the same with this one. I think that just grows a little bit, and then again this one here I could just bring it sort of around here and then bring this one out a bit here. So that's what I do end up doing soon. But I think at the moment I was really focused on just trying to get this central building finished and looking good. And I was really happy with how it was looking so far. I managed to get all the shape of it looking how I wanted, which was a challenge, but I think it's turned out pretty nice. So let me crack on and see what I got up to next. Right, I've done quite a lot this time, so let's start with the entrance walkway out the front here. I really wanted this to be quite a grand entrance. I wanted a structure over the top, so I used one of my favourite pieces, this lovely metal bit of framework with the pattern on. I absolutely love this piece, and it is so adaptable. You can use it for all sorts of things. So in this case, I wanted it to be the top of a tunnel, essentially. So that's what I did, and then I needed a nice solid sort of frame underneath it, so I went with these logs. And I converted the barrier to this electric fence. Now obviously, again, in real life there's no way you would just have this electric fence between you and a pride of lions, but this is a computer game and I don't care. It's fine. I like it. I think it looks good, so that's what matters. I'm not going for realism in this zoo, so it really doesn't matter. However, what I did have to do, because unfortunately these logs are climbable, I had to create something along the top here to stop the lions escaping, and then obviously the same for the tigers on this side. So I used this fence, this lovely metal fence, which is, again, it's a very adaptable piece. If you remember, I used this, let's go over here, I used this all around the top here of the penguin habitat. Obviously here it looks more like actual fencing, but again it really is just, it's a barrier to actually stop the penguins being able to jump up and out. And well, in fact here you can see I did use it as fencing as well, didn't I? But yeah, so it's a cool piece, I really like it. And so in this case I've just tilted it sideways and used it to stop the lions being able to climb up on the logs, and I think it looks good as well as being functional, so I'm very happy that I managed to do that, and that is on both sides. I think that looks pretty cool as an entrance. So as you walk along here you come into your central area, and I've done a bit of decorating in here. So this central piece here, I wanted some sort of a flower display in the middle here. Yes, I'm aware that people walk through it. I don't really care, I'll be honest. So I wanted a flower pot in here. I didn't want to use an in-game one. I wanted to create my own. I wanted it to be something a bit different. So I thought I'd use planks, and it's something, obviously it's a very easy, common thing to do. But what I did to make it just a little bit different was just angle the planks backwards all around the edge. So it just creates a slightly different look to it. Makes it look a bit sturdier as well. And then the corners just capped off with these lovely stone pieces as well. And then inside here I've put a variety of things. I just put some flowers as the main bed of the flower bait. What am I trying to say? Sort of the base structure of the planting in here. And then these other pieces here are basically just palm trees sunken into the ground. So you can see this one here is one of these ponytail palms, and it's sunk right down underground. It goes quite a long way down. Then in the middle you have a lipstick palm, again that goes a long way down under the ground there. And then here you have another ponytail palm, again sunk massively down into the ground. But it makes the effect of having these lovely palm leaves at the right height, just here. And I think it looks really good. It's a very easy thing to do, just using plants slightly differently to how they're meant to be used, and you can create, essentially I've created new plants by sinking them into the ground. So really quite a simple thing to do, but it looks really good. I really like that as a central piece. And I wanted some seating in here, so I decided to go with picnic tables. I kind of had to go with picnic tables because obviously the paths that I could build underneath here, as you saw in one of the earlier segments, were all over the place. There were lots of gaps and things, so I couldn't put benches down in the places that I wanted. So I had to go with these picnic tables, and as it was, I had to sink this one and this one actually into the flower bed to make them work. I couldn't get them right out here where I wanted, because the paths just weren't there. Basically the path structure wasn't in the right place, but I managed to make them look good anyway. So it just looks like these are half benches, purposely made to make sure there's enough space for people to walk by, I guess, because if that was all the way out there it'd be quite a thin area here for people to walk. So it kind of makes sense actually that it's been done like that. So yes, I think that has turned out really nice as a central piece of decoration. And then around the outside I decided to go with all these lovely flat pieces. I really like all of these leaves and these sort of shapes, the vines, the grass. This piece here is fantastic, this little grass piece. What does it actually say? South American wood panel set. I think that just says grass under there. Yeah, lovely little piece. All these vines and the logs and the animal shapes, and then you've got this sort of palm leaf here that I've sunk into the ground, and it makes it look a bit like tufts of grass. That was my thinking with those. I just mixed it up all the way around here, just a combination of different leaves and vines and different coloured greens. Again, more of these sunk in to make it look like grass. Just tried to keep each corner looking a little bit different to the others. Obviously I've got the lovely lion shape there, and then the sort of, I don't know if this is actually a tiger piece. I can't quite remember what this does say. Yes, it does say tiger. So yeah, so you've got the tiger there next to the tigers and the lion there next to the lion. So I thought that made sense. So yeah, really, it's a simple thing to do, but it really just brightens the area up. It just makes it all look a little bit more sort of decorated and finished off, doesn't it? So yeah, pretty simple, but pretty effective. Obviously, this piece here you can see is sticking up, but I knew I was going to be putting a flat roof on the top, so that would disappear into the roof anyway, so that wasn't going to be an issue. So that is the inside of our building done, and our tunnel entranceway as well. And I'm really happy with how both of those things turned out. I believe my next task was to build the roof, which was going to prove to be a bit more tricky, but it turned out great in the end. So let me load up my next segment now and see if it was the roof that I got up to next. I'm pretty sure it was, but let's have a look, shall we? And here we have our final roof structure. I think it looks really nice. I was very pleasantly surprised with how it turned out, actually. So you'll see that it's, how many different roofs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think, and there may be one in the middle. No, yeah, so 8 separate pieces of roof. So yeah, so it was a little bit tricky, and as you can see, it's symmetrical left to right, obviously not front to back because of the slight difference in widths. But that's fine. That's, you know, it is what it is. I even like these little pieces where the corner pieces overlap here, which I didn't have a lot of choice over this. It was really the only way to put all the put the pieces together. It creates these weird bits here, but I kind of like that. I think it looks pretty cool. It looks sort of like it's been done on purpose, even though it was kind of just because it just had to be like that. I mean, if you just look at how that's built, there's nowhere I could move that to. I couldn't space it further out without having to make this all a lot wider at the front, because obviously I wanted the outside of the roof to match the line of the wall. I didn't want it sticking miles further out. Obviously it doesn't match up perfectly when you have the pieces blending together like this, but it's fine. I think it looks really, really nice. I'm very, very pleased with how it comes out. I like bits like this where it kind of blends together. It looks solid. It looks like it could actually exist. So yeah, I think I've got away with it. You know, it is what it is. It's one of my favourite things to say. It is what it is. There's only so much you can do in the game. When you're trying to create odd shaped buildings like this, it's not always easy getting all the pieces to line up exactly how you want. Excuse me. So that's you know, it's sort of the best I could do, but I'm very happy with it. It's got a nice look to it and a nice shape. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. And then I've just done a little bit more work inside. So as you come along here now, I built a few flower pots in here. So these are in-game flower pots, and then I've just put a nice variety of different plants inside here, ending with these lovely lobster claw palms at the top. But you've got some goldenrod in there, and a couple of the different plants at the bottom as well. Just filling it up, making them look like nice, full up, interesting flower pots. So there's 4 of those in there. In here I've put in my flat roof. 1 or 2 little things I just need to sort out. Got some bits showing through the roof there. This palm in the middle here sticks through the roof, so that gets brought down at some point. But yeah, it's a really simple wooden roof with some lights. So when you go to night time, it looks pretty nice in here. Just simple lights. It's just inviting. Not lighting up too much in here. I have put some sort of red lights in these, but it's not too bright, so the animals wouldn't be too disturbed in there. Just some faint lights going on, which is great. I think that's all they need. So yeah, also just a little bit of a frame. Let me just get the daylight back if I can. There we go. Also just built a small green frame around this door here. Wasn't too sure what to do with this opening. I tried a few different things out. None of them looked particularly good, and so I just went with a simple wooden frame in the end with this sort of chipped paintwork, which I like the look of. Made it green so that it kind of matched with a lot of the green theme pieces that I've got inside here. So yeah, there we go. Let me just show you that from the air. So that is coming together really nicely, I think, as a central building. I think that looks pretty cool. It's quite big, as you can see. I mean, it's almost the size of our entire sea lion habitat over here. So it is a pretty large building, but then it has got 5 habitats attached to it, so it kind of needed to be. But yeah, I'm really enjoying how it all came together at this stage. And obviously next up was actually getting into some of these habitats and starting to do a bit of terrain work and theming and all that sort of stuff. Now this video obviously is going to be way too long if I do all of this in one go. So I'm going to be splitting this into 2 videos, a part 1 and a part 2, because there's an awful lot of habitat work that goes on now. I don't want to make these videos too long, otherwise you'll get bored of listening to me jabber on about stuff. So let's crack on and see. I can't remember what I did first. I think I do this one first. I think I do the sort of Savannah lion habitat first. So let me load up my next save game and just confirm that, shall we? Right, so let me talk you through my thinking of what I was trying to achieve here. Now it does end up looking a bit different to this, I believe, in the end. So what I wanted the guest to be able to walk along here and to not have any barriers between them and the cats. In this case, the lions. Now obviously that isn't something that you would really see in real life, but it is something that you can do in the game. Certainly not with cats. In real life, you do see this sort of thing with other animals. I think there's a zoo in the UK here called Colchester Zoo, and there they have habitats with elephants and zebra and giraffe in, and there are no barriers between you and them other than there's a dip in the ground and then a pile of rocks, which means that the animals can't actually get between, from you to them. Which is great, and it's really nice. It means you're not looking through a fence, basically. So I wanted to do the same here with these cats. Now, unfortunately, obviously, cats can run and cats can jump. And so if you want to do that in the game, you have to have quite a wide crevice here for for them to not be able to jump over from one bit to the other. So that's what I put in here. And obviously, realistically, they would be able to just walk around the ends here, but they can't. If I show you their traversable area, that's all they can do. So you see, so they can't get to the guests. So I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. I can't quite remember how this turns out in the end. I think I do a lot of rock work down in here and end up making it. I'm not even sure it has the water at the bottom. I think it does. I think I keep the water at the bottom. But all I've done so far, I've just used terrain painting to sort of carve this out and make it into a rocky wall. And then I've used rock pieces on the floor here just to create the base of the riverbed. Obviously it does actually go a bit deeper than that, but I was thinking at the time that I wanted this to look like a nice sort of rocky floor. But I think actually what I end up doing is extending the floor into the walls, and so I cover up all of this land here with rocks in the end, I believe. I've also put in a small swimming area for the lions so they can drink in here and go for a little swim. I don't know that lions really swim that much in real life, I'll be honest. I don't actually know, but I can't imagine they do much. They're not very energetic animals, are they, lions? They generally only move when they're hunting, and that's it. The rest of the time they do this. They sit down and they enjoy the sun and they chill out in the shade. And they're really only they preserve their energy for when they have to go hunting. So I can't imagine that they do a lot of swimming for fun, unlike many other animals that enjoy just swimming for the sake of swimming. Oh, look at them having their lunch. Yum 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 yum. Nom nom nom. Oh, that looks tasty, doesn't it? Very nice. Right, so yeah, so that was my thinking. So let me load up my next stage and see how I manage to progress it, shall we? Okay, so you can see here what I've done with this sort of crevice area at the front. I have completely filled it in with rocks. I think the main reason for that was because of the rock work along this front edge. It didn't look good having the land showing. It doesn't interact very well with the pathway. So yeah, so I went with rocks in the end. And I think it looks pretty good. Obviously I do a lot more work to it, a lot of vegetation work. I also had to create these blocked sort of areas at each end. Oh, excuse me, I do apologise. I just had a fizzy drink and oh, it's all repeating on me. Excuse me. Sorry about that. That's the last thing you want to hear is me belching at you. I do apologise. Really, really sorry about that. Very unprofessional of me. Right, so yeah, so I had to create these barriers at the end here, because when you put these large rocks down, obviously the animals can then just walk around the edges. So I built a couple of sort of rock walls at each end, but now obviously it means that the animals still can't escape, but it does look a lot nicer. But it looks even better when I've finished, once I put some foliage in and some fallen trees and all that sort of stuff. Really, really simple but really effective. And I put a few more rock formations in. So you got a few here. You've got some scattered little rocks here, and around the house here as well. I decided to try and cover up some of the brickwork. Again, just very simple. I've done this many times before. Just putting these flat pieces up against the wall, and then just some pieces in front here as well, just to make it all sort of blend in and look a bit nicer. Now you see I put my traditional shelter in. So this is an African themed shelter that I designed myself, and I use this in pretty much every zoo I build because I love it. It's such a simple piece. I mean, it could not be an easier design really. I just used logs for here, created the shape, filled it in with all these lovely African patterned logs, and then just copied and pasted it around. Put the pieces on the corner and a big one of these trees in the middle, and Bob's your uncle. There we go. Easy peasy shelter. And I use it in pretty much every zoo in wherever I build up sort of an African themed area, because it's a really, really simple, nice and effective piece. So there we go. So that is their shelter, and I've put in a bit of bedding for them as well. So they've got an outside area as well as their indoor bedding area. Looks like he's about to come and have a lie down, is he? Or is he just passing through? No, he's just passing through. Oh, look. Is he going to eat the keeper, or is he going to eat the food? What do you reckon? Wouldn't it be great if they ate the keepers? Oh, look, he's not even lying on his bedding. He's just having to sit down on the sand. Well, why not? He is the king after all. He can do what he wants. Anyway, right, so what else have I done? I've also just done a bit of fencing along the front here. So this is really simple. Just use these lovely wooden beams at the bottom, and then some wooden logs and some wooden posts to fill in the gaps. And that's just a really simple technique. You just create one piece and then just copy and paste, change the angle and get it coming all the way along here as their basic bit of fencing there between the guest pathway and the habitat. So yes, there's a path. There's a fence. There has to be some sort of fence, otherwise people could just fall into this hole. So yes, so there has to be a fence, but at least it's not a tall fence like this one here. So this is what I've done for the rest of the habitat. So again, it's just a very simple log surround with a mesh fence. And that again is just copied and pasted all the way around the edge of the habitat, and that fence will continue around all of these to replace all of these other brick walls, because obviously the brick walls look terrible. But this is a very simple, effective fence for keeping cats in. And hopefully keeping people out. That's the idea. Although I do discover later on that actually some of the cats can climb these logs, unfortunately. I think it's the Jaguars. I think at one point one of the Jaguars is walking around on the roof, and it's because he climbed up the fence and just leapt onto the roof, and he doesn't escape, believe it or not. He wanders around on the front here and then just jumps back down into his habitat. So it wasn't too much of an issue. I'll explain that later, because I think I might even get to see it on one of these videos if you're lucky. If it depends when I save the game whether I manage to save it at the right point where they could still escape, or if I managed to change the structure a bit so they couldn't get out. I honestly can't remember actually whether I changed it or not. It didn't really bother me that they were escaping, because they weren't really doing it a lot. I think they only actually did it once, so yeah, it wasn't too big a problem. So there we go. You can see it all coming together now, can't you, hopefully? So this fencing here is going to be copied over on this side as well, and then this fence is going to go around all of these other habitats, so it will look awesome in the end. But for now, that is the starting area of our lion habitat. So I think what I'll do, I'll just do one, maybe two more segments in this video, I think just until this habitat is finished, and then the second part of this video will be covering the remaining 4 habitats. So let me just continue, load up the next segment and see. That might be the last segment, might be 2 more. I'm not too sure how much more I do in this habitat. So let me just load it up and we'll take a look. So here we are in our finished habitat. So it is just this last segment to show you exactly what I've done. And I think it's looking really nice. It makes so much difference once you get the foliage and the trees in. So let me show you what is what. So this crevice in the ground, just done a little bit of decorating. So you've got a lovely fallen tree along here. Obviously the animals can't walk across it, luckily. I think in real life they probably could, but they can't in the game, so that all works out okay. And then I've just put a bit of greenery in, some simple bramble bushes. Was that a custard apple tree? Yeah, a custard apple tree there. Again, it's a tree, but I've sunk it in. It just makes it look like a little bush instead of a tree. Very simple thing to do. More the same here. Some of these lovely big agave cactus. Are they agave? No, century plant. It's basically an agave cactus. So yeah, just keeping the foliage simple, pretty sparse as well, because you don't really get a lot of foliage in an African terrain, do you? Various bits of enrichment around. So you've got a feeding board here. We have a football. We have a scratching post here. As you can see, I've started to put the pathway in down the side as well. So obviously this is where the guests are going to be viewing from. So there's a media board here. You've also got a media board on this corner here, and over in the corner here as well. So whichever direction you're approaching from, you get to read about the animals as soon as you reach the habitat. We also have one of these new feeders here. What is this one? A pinata pronghorn. I love that. That's brilliant. In there, and we have a cardboard box back here. We have one of these zebra feeders here, and I think I would have put something inside as well. Oh look, he's playing with it. Isn't that cool? Yeah, so he's got one of these pickup things inside here as well, and he's actually using it right on cue. That was perfect timing, wasn't it? It's almost like I asked him to do it, and he's dropped it. He got bored of it pretty quick. Never mind, that's great. So what is this actually called? I forget. A fire hose ball. Yeah, there we go. Did I put another one in here? No, I didn't. Just the one. Okay. So yeah, so they've got plenty of things to entertain them, which is good. There's a couple of little lilies in the water and some grass as well. These reeds, the cattail reeds. Another fallen log, because I love fallen logs. They just look great. And then again, just a little bit of decorating around the back here. And oh, what is this? Oh yes, we have a blood pumpkin back here as well. And then again, just a little bush back here, a couple of little bits of greenery here and there. Oh, someone else has picked up the chew toy. That's good. Getting plenty of use out of it. That's great. And then, of course, my favourite trees in the world, the big umbrella trees. I absolutely love these things, and obviously they just look so African. It's fantastic. So there's 3 of those in the habitat there as well. And that is it. That is our habitat done. That's the lions complete. I love it. I think it looks really nice. There's a good amount of space for the animals. They have plenty of sort of private areas that they can get to. They've got shelter. They've got water. There's a good view for the guests from over here. You can really see the whole habitat. You can get pretty close when the lions come right up to the edge of this. You can get pretty close, and obviously round on the pathway here you can get a very good view. Again, obviously it's not realistic, because you'd never have just a single bit of mesh between you and a lion. It would always be a second barrier a few feet away back here somewhere. But for the sake of the game, I think this looks really nice, so I'm more than happy leaving it like this. Oh look, we've got a little scent marker down here as well. I like to point out all the enrichment items. I don't know why, I just do. You can just ignore me when I'm doing that part of the commentaries if you like. So I'm very happy with how this has turned out, and hopefully you get an idea now of what the rest of the habitat is going to look like. Let me tell you, by the end it looks awesome. I'm so happy with how all of these turn out, especially this this second one that I do, the Bengal Tigers over here, because I give them a proper big sort of a crumbling temple structure in there, which I had a lot of fun building. And that is the next one that I do over there. And then I think I do the Jaguars here, their sort of swampy look. Then I do the cheetahs, which is another African theme, so very similar to what I've done here for the lions. And then the last one I do is a mountain sort of area here for the Cougars. And they were all a lot of fun. The Cougars is probably the trickiest one that I did, but actually I think in the end it turned out okay. It's not the most natural looking habitat, it's more of an artificial mountain area. Hopefully you'll make sense of that when I show you that in the next video. But for now, that is going to do it for this episode, and in the next episode we will cover all 4 of the remaining habitats, including the pathway that goes all the way around it, and a few sort of shelter areas that I build around the edge of the pathway as well. But for now, that is going to be it for this episode. So thank you very much for joining me today. I do hope you've enjoyed the episode, and hopefully maybe you've been inspired to do something for yourself a bit similar to this. Hopefully, or maybe by the time you watch the second part of this episode and you see the final results, you'll maybe get a few ideas of how to do this sort of thing in your own zoo. But yeah, any ideas, any comments, please do let me know. Positive or negative. I promise I'm not going to cry if you say something bad about me or about my habitat or my videos. That is why I'm here after all, is to try and entertain and inform you, and if I'm not doing either of those things, then you need to let me know. I'm not going to stop, but at least I'll know that I'm rubbish. It's fine, you can tell me, it's fine. Okay, right, anyway, sorry, I'm waffling again. Let me crack on. So hopefully I will see you in the next episode, but for now, thank you again, and do take care of yourselves. I will see you soon.